Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Ringside Ramblers podcast. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm joined this week by the most revered of Ringside Ramblers, Rohit and Alfonso. And for this week's topic, we are going to be discussing some of our favourite wrestling pay-per-views of all time. Now, these are just our personal favourites. It's not what we think is the best, pay-per-view in terms of the general consensus. It's purely personal choice. So we'll run down our top 3 pay-per-views of all time, each of us. So we'll see what we come up with. Rohi, obviously, I know you're mainly a New Japan pro wrestling guy, so you could come up with some obscure ones here. Alfonso, I'm expecting you and I to at least have one that's the same, but we will see. Again, guys, this is purely subjective. It's just our opinion. So, Rohi, Alfonso, how are you guys doing? And are you ready for some wrestling ramblings?
Always ready to ramble, and yeah, I'm good, really. How about yourselves?
I'm ready. I'm excited, and I just want to talk about my favorite pay-per-views. Let's go,
Awesome.
Rohit.
Let's
Okay.
get straight into it then. So, yeah, Rohit, we'll start with you. So we'll run down our top 3. So, Rohit, favourite wrestling pay-per-views of all time. What comes in third position for you?
Well, first of all, they always change, but right now, right now, I would say my first one is a New Japan Pro Wrestling one, and it's one they haven't like in terms of the name of the show, they haven't really used in years. They've replaced it now, but it's called Invasion Attack, and it was the pay-per-view show Invasion Attack 2014, which was my first proper one that I managed to watch live, so it holds like a special place in my heart in a sense. And it had quite a good, like a lot of stuff going on. For example, that was the show that Finn Balor lost the loser leaves town match, or should I say Prince Devitt at the time, to his former tag team partner Yusuke Taguchi, and obviously that's when he left New Japan and went to the WWE. But it was also the night that AJ Styles debuted in New Japan and attacked Kazuchika Okada, so that was pretty good too. So and
Yes.
yeah,
So this is this when he was the TNA World Champion and they thought he was going to sign a contract, but then he debuted in New Japan and took the title with him essentially. Is that right?
no, he did drop the title in a way before because he did tour like independently, like he did some shows in Mexico and stuff. This was all part of the TNA storyline, but he did drop the title. But then obviously contract negotiation didn't go well, and then he somehow ended up in New Japan, and they took him, and yeah, and that's when he made the strong debuting of obviously attacking Okada and becoming the new quote unquote captain leader of Bullet Club.
Yeah, didn't he win the IWGP World Championship like a week later or something?
Yeah, in his first like proper singles debut match, it was against Okada, and he took the title off him as well.
Yeah, that's right.
They
Yeah, I
really
mean,
made a big case for him, and it was really cool to see. And just the fact it was my first, like, I've watched New Japan stuff before, but just because it was my first like live watching it full pay-per-view, because obviously internet and things like that finally became more understandable and more available, managed to catch something live, so held some special place in my heart, and had some other good matches on the card as well, so it was a pretty fun show.
yeah, I understand what you mean because like I think maybe a couple more picks might be a similar thing where it's like a sentimental one where it might be like the first one we watch live or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, understand that one, Rohit.
Yep.
Um, right, I'll go with my number 3 choice. This is like a bit of an obscure one. I don't know if you guys remember this pay per view at all. It's Vengeance 2005.
Ooh, I think I kind of vaguely remember that. It sounds
I
familiar.
don't remember the matches
I
on
don't
it.
remember the matches, no.
Right. So I'll run down like a couple of the big matches. So if you remember the draft lottery in 2005, this is when Batista went to SmackDown and John Cena went to Raw.
Yeah.
So this was almost the crossover pay per view. So John Cena had just gone to Raw and Batista hadn't quite left Raw for SmackDown. So they were both on the card. So Batista defended the world title in the main event against Triple H in a Hell in the Cell match.
Oh, that was that one. Okay, yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that
and it was a
match.
freaking awesome Hell in the Cell match. It's probably my favourite Hell in the Cell match of all time. It was so good. And it was like the blow off to their feud. John Cena defended the WWE title in a triple threat against Chris Jericho and Christian, which was a really fun match as well. But for me, as good as that Hell in the Cell match was, the match of the night was Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle, Part 2.
Oh, that's why it was as well. Yeah, I remember those two matches. I forgot about the Christian being involved in that triple threat. I forgot about that John Cena defense. But the other two, I started to remember now that you mentioned it. They were good matches, yeah.
Yeah. So, obviously Shawn and Kurt had an amazing match at WrestleMania 21, and this was the rematch. Again, it was like quite a similar match, like such an amazing in-ring match between the two. Like two of the greatest of all time, really. And you'd expect an absolute classic, and that's what we got. And yeah, it's just up and down the card. It was just a really good pay-per-view, really solid pay-per-view. I think you had Shelton Benjamin defend the Intercontinental title against Carlito, I think, in the opener, which again was really fun. Kane faced Edge, and that was when Edge and Lita had just started their on-screen relationship, so that was like a real fun kind of match too. So yeah, a bit of an obscure one, but
Yeah.
if any fans of the Ruthless Aggression era, go and watch this pay-per-view. You won't be disappointed. Right, Alfonso, we'll come to you. What's your third choice pay-per-view? Best pay-per-view of all time?
My third choice is a close to hard one. I think it was the first like proper WrestleMania I remember like vividly. Here in El Salvador, we didn't get the pay-per-views normally, but my family managed to get a DirecTV. This is a server from the US,
Ah.
and my dad managed to buy via PayPal the pay-per-view. Like the $60 pay-per-view for the first time,
Amazing.
and I watched it with my bigger brother, with my oldest brother, and we watched WrestleMania 24.
Nice.
Uh,
Ah,
and yeah, it was very late. Like for me, I was already in my teens years,
Yeah.
but the first time I watched CM Punk win the Money in the Bank, in that Money in the Bank with Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho, Carlito, MVP, Mr. Kennedy, and John Morrison, it was great. You had Batista versus Umaga. That was a very fun match.
Forgot about that
You
one,
had
yeah.
you had the Shawn Michaels Ric Flair that made me cry, and it was like,
yeah.
oh my god, wrestling can make you cry, and I didn't know much about Ric Flair at the time, so for me it was a big thing,
Yeah.
and
I'm
obviously you had the
sorry.
triple.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I
I love
suffer, I
you.
love you, and of course you had the Randy Orton, John Cena, Triple H triple threat, and the Floyd Mayweather Big Show that was amazing. That match was very fun when you see the blood coming from Big Show nose in the Raw before Mania. That was great.
That was one of the
And
best use of a celebrity on a WrestleMania for sure.
Yeah.
and finally you end up with Undertaker against Edge. And yeah, for me it was like the first like the big WrestleMania I saw live and everything. And it has a very close to my heart, place.
Yes.
That's why it's number third.
Yeah, streak versus streak between Edge and Undertaker as well, in a way.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and the reports were that Edge was chosen to break the streak, and he refused. He didn't want to carry that sort of
Yeah.
burden of being the one to end the streak.
I I
I
think
remember
what
that
the
match being really, really good though.
Yeah, I think what they were thinking, since Edge was on a streak, if he was the one to break it, they could kind of carry on the streak with Edge until someone else would come around. But obviously, I guess because Edge refused, they never went down that route, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I actually watched that one live too, Alfonso.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it was
really
like
good.
£15 on pay per view in the UK, and I believe also that was the first outdoor WrestleMania since WrestleMania 9, I think,
Wow.
which was like the Roman kind of themed WrestleMania. Just a fun little fact for you there. Right, Rohit, what is your second choice for best pay per view of all time?
My second choice, it's probably a bit random, and I just because I've seen a couple of matches of it recently, and I just enjoyed the vibes and everything, like the celebration kind of around it, and that's again, bit out there. ECW One Night Stand 2005.
Oh my god, this pay-per-view was so good.
It was
That's a
That's a
just
very cool
great
It's
choice.
just
that's a
so
great
fun.
choice,
Just I
Rohit.
loved Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka. I love the Paul Heyman promo, especially where they go, the only reason you're champion is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesday or something like that.
That was to
To
JBL, wasn't it?
JBL, yeah. And
Yeah.
just seeing like the Sandman, Rhino, the whole crowd, the atmosphere, and some of the faces, just fun, and it felt organic and natural. Same with the 2006 one, but I feel like 2005, because it was the first one of that kind, was really good and fun. And just seen it recently, like a couple of the matches, and I was like, yo, I was like, this is fun and good vibes and just a fun show. So I'm like, yeah, that just came into my head. I'm like, you know what? Why not put it as one of my favorites? Because I did enjoy that. So yeah, right
That
now.
was a
And
great show. That was in the Hammerstein Ballroom as well, wasn't
yes,
it? So like
yes,
the crowd were just like electric.
exactly.
What
Yeah,
and
Look, the
the main
Hammerstein Ballroom is a very like static place
yeah.
to watch wrestling.
Mm,
They're very cool.
Mhm.
It's every like I want to go to a wrestling show there. Like it's on
yeah.
my bucket list.
Yeah,
Mm.
100%. The main event was it the Dudleys versus Dreamer
And
and
Sandman, I believe it
Sandman?
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was the
Yeah,
main
no.
event. Yeah, that was also cool. I think Mike Awesome was Masato Tanaka was the one before that. I think it was the semi-main or like the third to last match, and they just knocked it out of the park. They just like went out there to batter each other as well, which was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great choice, Rohit.
Yeah,
Yeah. Again, for fans of that era, that go and watch that pay-per-view. It
yeah,
really is great.
really
I
fun.
think Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero also wrestled each other, possibly.
No, I think that one might have been Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit.
Ah,
I
yes.
think
I think you're right. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think
No,
Ray might have been. I don't know if Ray was on this one or if he was in a tag match, but I can't remember. Because I know he was in 2006's one, but I don't think I know about this one. Don't remember.
no, that's a great
But
choice,
yeah.
Rohit. Great choice. Right. So my second favorite pay-per-view of all time. This is an obvious pick. This is one that most would say is like arguably the greatest pay-per-view of all time, in terms of like general reviews and how acclaimed it is, and that's WrestleMania X7.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to argue with this card, really, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
the Rock versus Steve Austin for the championship in the main event is like one of my favorite matches because it's like I think it's like the biggest star power match they've ever done in terms of like you've got like the two biggest stars of the biggest boom period in wrestling in the main event of the biggest show fighting for the biggest prize, like, and the match was great as well, like even the interference from Vince McMahon, like, it just added so much to it. And then you have like TLC2, which is just the most crazy match with the Dudleys,
Yeah.
Edge and Christian and the Hardys. You've got Wrestling Clinic with Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit. You've got a real fun street fight with Vince and Shane. You've got the real cool, like, hardcore backstage match with Raven, Kane, and Big Show. Triple H versus The Undertaker. Like, it's hard to argue against WrestleMania X7
Yeah.
being one of the greatest shows of all time.
It's just fun, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very fun show from opening to the last match. I think the people are very passionate, and you hear the crowd the whole show, and it's very cool. It's very
Yeah,
cool.
and I feel like unlike modern WrestleMania, which feels more like a spectacle and show, that had that vibe, but it still at the core was a wrestling show. If that makes any sense, I don't know if that does, but that's how I feel like. So it was really good.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was all on, they did do it all on the matches.
Yeah,
The matches, like, up and down were just so good.
yeah,
And it was a different variety of wrestling,
agree.
like the car crashes, the hardcore matches, the wrestling clinics, the star-studded main event, and yeah, amazing
Hmm.
show for me. So let's go to you, Alfonso, for your number two spot of
My
the greatest wrestling pay-per-views of all time.
my number two is a very recently one. because I don't know, I had fun. People online were very happy about it, and I felt very happy to see many of my favorite having amazing matches. And I think it was when AEW was the hottest. It's 2022 Revolution. That's the pay per view when you had Chris Jericho against Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
You had the triple threat between Jurassic Express, Red Dragon, and the Young Bucks. You had Brian Danielson versus John Moxley, Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, but the most important one was the dog collar match between CM Punk and MJF.
Oh yeah. For me, that's still the greatest match in AEW's history.
And for me, it was all about the hype and the vibe on Twitter and X and everything, and people were very happy about it. I was watching Punk coming back to wrestling, and it was one of the biggest matches he had, like finally coming back. And then you end the night with Hammond Page against Adam Cole in a great match, and Brian Danielson and John Moxley was just what I love about wrestling, to be honest. And I don't know, it was a great, great pay per view for me.
Yeah, it's definitely one of AEW's best of all time. When you first said the recent and stuff like that, I thought you were going to go with All Out 21, which was Punk's first match back in wrestling, which was the show
With
where
Darby.
Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson debuted, which again was another amazing show. I think
Yeah, I think those last 10 minutes from that AEW pay per view is the best thing that AEW had in the whole life. Like Daniel, like you have Adam Cole debuting, and then you have Daniel Bryan so finally appearing in the last shot. I think that's amazing. Like 10 minutes, you go crazy, crazy, crazy.
yeah,
But I think that everything was like just putting into motion for Revolution 222.
yeah, I think that was about 6 months after All Out. That kind of 6 months to a year span was like probably the best in AEW's history. They were like completely firing with all their shows, and it's a good pick, great pick, Alfonso, definitely. So, Rohit, what is, in your opinion, your personal opinion, the greatest wrestling pay per view of all time?
For me, it's a tricky one, but I'd personally go for my opinion is Wrestle Kingdom 9, which was in 2015. And yeah, it's just a fun card, solid up and down the card. You had so many like guest wrestlers appear from different promotions. So you had like Ring of Honor sending Red Dragon. You had at the time TMDK was with Pro Wrestling Noah, so you had Shane Hayes and Mikey Nichols appear there. And yeah, and it just had like different types of matches up and down the card. And it had something for everyone. Like you had like the shoot MMA kind of style, similar to what Blood Sports do, like with Suzuki versus Sakuraba MMA legend as well. So really
That
rare.
was an amazing match. It's one of my favorite match ever.
Yeah.
I think it's the UFFI
UWFI,
rules
yeah.
match. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the original kind of like shoot promotion rules in Japan, which obviously also, if you want to go into history, kind of like start off the MMA craze and everything in a way as well. So it's really cool. You had like a hard hitting, just meat fest between Togi Makabe versus Tomoyo Ishii for the Never Openweight Championship.
Oh
That was a
yeah.
barn burner. You had Kenny Omega versus Taguchi for the Junior Heavyweight Championship, which was a fun match. One of
And also the
Good.
and also you have Nakamura against Ibushi in
Yeah,
that card.
Nakamura Bushi in the semi-main event for the Intercontinental title. Then obviously the main event, Tanahashi versus Okada for the world title as well. And another fun match which is forgotten, which may not be the best, but is very important, I think, for in a way for both characters, is AJ Styles versus Tetsuya Naito, and this is before the Lij Naito as well. So that's a very interesting wrinkle as well, because this kind of set up Naito's like second phase of the whole long story arc that he has going on, which only recently completed, which is very, I feel like very cool. And another thing is this was also when the two high school friends Goto and Shibata obviously teamed up and won the tag titles as well. So
Oh.
yeah, so it had a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool moments, good
But
matches. Hmm.
to be honest, I think the biggest
Yeah.
thing about that card is that you have the best wrestler ever, Jeff Jarrett, being part of the Bullet Club.
That was funny as well. That was funny. For sure, that was funny. Yeah, and obviously you had I think one of the first few times where you had the New Japan Rumble on the pre-show as well. I think it was one of the first I can remember, and that was also fun seeing some Japanese legends being there as well. So overall, great show, great fun, good matches, and maybe not the best, but certainly one of my favorites. And yeah, and I think it's definitely worth watching. And come on, just Nakamura versus Bushi, one of the best matches they had. Tanahashi Okada, you need to see all of their matches, pretty much. At least the main one. So yeah.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
So
Like, if you want to understand New Japan Pro Wrestling,
mhm.
I think Wrestle Kingdom 9 is a big way
Yeah,
just to enter, just to get a sense of how pro wrestling in Japan is
yeah,
different, and then you can enjoy Wrestling Kingdom 14, 15, and
yeah.
16, you
I
know.
do agree. Wrestle Kingdom is always a great start point to like any year really, but Wrestle Kingdom 9 is one of the better ones where you got different types of matches up and down the card, different styles, different wrestlers, different unique looks, the pageantry and everything, and yeah, you can really delve into and then use that as a starting point to delve into more. So yeah, that's why I do personally enjoy it. But yeah,
So yeah, just up and down, just like a complete all round
yeah,
show. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Good choice. Right, my favorite all time wrestling pay per view, my personal favorite. Now I'm gonna disclaim this by saying I've got a feeling, Alfonso, you're gonna pick the same one as me,
Ooh.
and
I'm
that
sure.
is Money in the Bank 2011.
Ah, is that the CM
Yeah,
Punk
yeah,
walkout?
you're right. Yeah, it's the same for me. It's the
I
same
knew
for
it'd be the
me.
same for you.
That's the
And
CM Punk
and
walkout one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the
yeah,
CM Punk John Cena championship match in the main event, which
Y-
everybody talks about,
Yeah.
which is still heralded as one of the greatest WWE matches of all time.
Yeah, that
It's
moment
just
is
got,
really good, yeah.
oh, it's,
for me, the thing is that you are building up to that great match between CM Punk and John Cena, but when you start the pay per view, you have a Money in the Bank ladder match where Daniel Bryan wins it against Cody
yeah,
Rhodes. You have Heath Ledger. You have like the pay per view. The Money in the Bank ladder match is not great, but Daniel Bryan wins that
Mm.
match, and then you have Alberto the Prick the Real winning also the other one.
oh,
That
he
is
is a prick,
okay.
yeah.
It's okay, but you have like also Christian against Randy
I
Orton that
was going to
deserves.
say, don't forget Randy Orton versus Christian, because that match is really, really good as like an undercard match. And
But the
the
the, the
story
thing
was so
just
good.
I just want to add something really quick that for me, like normally when you're watching a WWE pay-per-view during that time, you know what kind of matches you're expecting, you know what kind of spots you're expecting, but when the main event hit and CM Punk was doing new things, Cena was doing other things, and the crowd was as electric as it was, and you end the night with CM Punk winning and beating Super Cena after half an hour. I think that's something that doesn't happen a lot, like in that time. And I remember, like, I spent the whole night online. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about the match. I went and watched the pay per view again that same day, because it was too
Yeah.
much for me.
Yeah, I mean, like you're right, Alfonso. This era of WWE in general was pretty dull. Like you
Yeah.
just had a lot of Cena and Randy Orton on top, and the storylines weren't that engaging. And CM Punk brought something fresh and new and exciting to the product. And I was a bit of a lapsed fan, and this pay per view kind of, changed my fandom and made me start watching every week because I had to find out what was happening. And it was like such an amazing story of he drops the pipe bomb, Punk does, which gets everybody talking, like one of the greatest promos of all time. And then they have the match, which is just insanely good. I think Meltzer gave it 5 stars, which is the first 5-star rating he gave since like
Yeah.
1997 or
Damn it,
something.
CM Punk.
And like,
We could have had, damn
Sorry.
it, CM Punk, we could have had Alex be a multifaceted wrestling fan, not just a WWE fan. Damn it. Nah, I'm joking.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, yeah. CM Punk brought me back to the product, and obviously the crowd were amazing. But it's like Alfonso said, it's not just that match; it's the
Yeah.
undercard as well. The two Money in the Bank matches, they're always loads of fun. Randy Orton and Christian was a brilliant feud. I think they wrestled like 4 or 5 matches on pay-per-view, and they were all amazing. The feud was great because Christian played this like whiny, annoying heel, and he just got under Orton's skin. And I remember the finish was Orton, I think, Christian spat in his face, and then Orton kicked him in the balls, and he lost the world title because that was the stipulation where if he got disqualified, he would lose, which was amazing. Just such an amazing show up and down. But obviously, Punk Cena just takes it way over the top for me. Yeah, and that's your choice too, Alfonso. So there you go. That's it.
Good list.
That's
Yeah, yeah, that's my choice too. But I think as Rohit says, it's very difficult just to like to say every time like this is my favorite pay-per-view of all
Yeah.
time. Like it varies a lot, and to be honest, I think that can
Yeah.
change because when you see wrestling live, I'm giving a little bit spoiler. Uh, Things can change for you, and maybe I'm going to have a new favorite pay-per-view
You
eventually.
never know. Yeah. You might go back and watch an old show and be like, wow, this blew me away. And yeah, you never know.
Yeah, I think it's just those kind of shows that just
Yeah.
stick in your mind and you just always remember them. Right, that's it, guys. Those were our favourite wrestling pay-per-views of all time. What were yours? Leave a comment. Let us know on Facebook as well. Follow us at Ringside Ramblers, also on Twitter. Alfonso and Rohit, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, guys.
No problem. Pleasure as always.
And we will see everybody next time for another Wrestling Ramblers podcast. Ciao,
Ciao.
everybody.
Ciao.